Hi everyone, welcome to Dusty Shelf. I hope I find you well. Little follow-up video on Locomotion. So I reviewed these two models beginning of the week. I purchased both of these from Hornby. So on this side we have the Era 1 model, and on this side the catalogue edition, which is either 11 or Era 2, whichever way you look at it. We'll come to that in a moment. This one, limited edition for the Collectors Club, limited to 700 units. I think I said 1700 units in the previous video, but actually it's 700 odd. You do have to be a member of the Collectors Club to get that Loco, which costs you £30 a year, but you do get a really good magazine for that as well, that comes out quarterly. So this model on this side, previous video I referred to this as Era 2, mistakenly all the way through. Now on the box it says Era and then two ones next to each other, which is clearly, with hindsight, Era 11. Obviously Era 11 being the present day. Now I did put a correction in the video, but because I'd filmed the whole thing with Era 2 all the way through, I just kept repeating myself, which was quite foolish. However, the more I think about it though, this Loco first went into preservation in around 1880, which was Era 2. So I guess there's some kind of argument here that could this be Era 2 and Era 11? I don't know how it's changed over the years since it was first put into preservation. You know, obviously it was put on a plinth and stored in various different museums, and it was at the station for a while. And how has it changed over the years? I mean, I'm not sure. Certainly I believe that the nameplate was added after the Loco went into preservation. But yeah, so I'm going to stand by it. Era 2, Era 11. I mean, I'm interested to know other people's opinions. I personally think it could be either of them, but yeah, let me know your thoughts. Well, let's just briefly talk about price. So in the previous video I just mentioned these were expensive, and a lot of people called me out saying, why didn't you give the price? You know, it's important information to the viewer. At the time I just assumed that anybody watching the video would know the price of these Locos, and I just skipped over it. So anyway, let's talk about it. So these Locos are currently on the Hornby website for £184.99. I do believe the Era 11 is now sold out, but if you then take off your discount that you get for your Hornby rewards, that's another £18 off of that. Brings the price down to around about let's say 150, £160. At the retailers these are about 160 at the moment, if you can find one that's still got them in stock. In terms of the value for money, now I've been the first to call out Hornby in the past when I think their prices seem inflated for particular Locos. For these ones, given the intricacy of the motion, the engineering that's gone into this, the detailing on the models, I personally feel these are value for money. They really are value for money. At £160 I think these are great models. I mean, people will disagree with me and say it's a ridiculous price, but I actually really like these, and I think for Hornby to even attempt such a model with the complexities of the motion, hats off to them. Now obviously I did have a little bit of disappointment when I first opened these and found that this one not running at all, this one squeaking, but as you'll see later in this video, few little fixes, which, you know, to be fair I shouldn't have to do with a new model, but you know, given the complexity of this I can understand, you know, that a little bit of tuning does help. Yeah, few little fixes. These are both beautiful runners now. So the next thing I want to touch on is the differences between the two models, and on the previous video I said I could see three differences. Obviously the colour of the boilers and the tenders are very slightly different colour. We've got Locomotion written on the side here, printing of number 1 on here. We've got a bell fitted and no bell fitted. At the time that's all I could see, but again with the help of the comments from people leaving on there, we do have a difference in the tender. You can see here we've got a welding seam around the tender on the earlier model, and on this one the welding seam has been removed. Now somebody left a comment about the wheels on Locomotion. So if you look at the wheels on this side, you can see here these are completely filled in spokes, completely filled in spokes, and again on this side completely filled in spokes, completely filled in spokes. Now when Locomotion went into preservation, I'm just going to turn this one round very gently, it was fitted with one odd wheel. So you can see here, this wheel filled in spokes, this one has open spokes. Anyway, I answered the message saying that I can confirm that the Era 2 or Era 11 Loco is fitted with one wheel with open spokes. And I responded to the message on there saying how pleased I was to see that Hornby had gone to the trouble of modelling a wheel with open spokes, so that in preservation you would have one different wheel from the other three. However, now I've come back to record this video and I'm just going to turn this one round. The Era 1 model also has one wheel with open spokes. Now, I don't know if that's correct. I don't know if Locomotion always had one odd wheel, or it was only in preservation that it did in fact get the odd wheel. Somebody I'm sure will confirm that, but it's kind of, yeah, I was really pleased initially to see that Hornby had gone to that level of detail to capture and retool the odd wheel, but now to see it on both locomotives I'm not so sure. So yeah, if somebody knows whether Locomotion always had an odd wheel, I'd be very, very interested to hear. Well, I did get a couple of comments from people basically saying that they felt the Loco should have come with some a driver and a fireman. Now, I did touch on this in the previous video, that there was an accessories pack, and I did show the figures. But what I've done is I've taken them out of the pack now, put them on the Loco, just to show what they look like. These do come with Locomotion number 1. Hornby have included a driver and a fireman, and I personally think they set the model off perfectly. Well, I'm going to deal with each of the locomotives in turn. We'll come on to the Era 1 in a moment. This is the Era 2 as I referred to it in the previous video, and as I've just explained, it can be either Era 2 or Era 11 in my mind. But anyway, I wrote to Hornby. I said this model, squeaking when it runs, and on the tender, on the left hand side, as you can see, the step is missing. In their response, basically they've said with the Era 11 model, you can try adding some oil. This won't void the warranty. And then with a caveat says unless it's over oiled. So yeah, not the best of responses there, but we'll give this a little bit of oil, see if we can fix the squeak. No response there about the step, so I will write back to them, ask them again. Anyway, I've popped this onto the rolling road, and what you'll see here is I've had to add in this elastic band. Basically the tender's so light, I think somebody else wrote to me and said they had the same problem when they put it on the rolling road. The tender is so light that it's just not picking up on the pickups. So I've added that band in there. Now if I put some power on, make the Loco go forward, as we pick up speed, there you can hear the squeaking. So what I'm planning to do is just to add a tiny bit of oil to different locations and see if we can locate where the squeak is coming from. So let me just bring that to a halt. I'm going to start with adding a tiny bit of oil just onto the 2 cylinders and at the front here. Let's see if I can get in there, and that's where I suspect it's coming from. Right, let's give that a go. No, it's definitely not that. Quite hard to locate actually. Right, let's go on to the hubs. Oh sorry, the con rods, not hubs. I'll just put a tiny bit of oil in those. Do the other side. Right, let's give that a go. No, that's not easing down. Up at the top here. I'm just gonna and a little bit just on the side of the running plate here. I'll do the same on the other side. Oh. That's got it. So what it actually is, it's the conrod here is just running on the side plate. So if I just tip it to the side, it's the conrod here, this vertical conrod, running on the foot plate either side. And I think, let me try it again, by adding the tiniest bit of oil on there, that has cured the squeak. Yeah, certainly that's fixed the problem. So I'm quite happy now with my Era 11 or Era 2 locomotive. That's a very successful runner. Now somebody in the comments did mention about the mechanism moving and how off-putting it looks for sort of this rocking motion that you see on the mechanism in the middle here. Now I can live with that. The reason being is the tolerances on this must be absolutely astronomical to get this mechanism running, and yeah, a little bit of movement of plastic there is a small price to pay, I feel personally, but that's a really nice runner now. Right, I'm just going to turn the speed down, because one of my concerns with this is with this type of loco, with these early locos, you want them to run very smoothly and slowly. You don't want them tearing around your track. And yeah, now this has got a little bit of oil on it. It's got a lovely amount of control. So I'm actually really pleased with the way that's running now. I'm pleased it's not squeaking. Pleased we found where the friction point was. And I think that's perfectly acceptable. So I will follow up with Hornby about the step. Obviously I do want that replaced, and hopefully they'll be able to help me. But other than that, I think that will do for the Era 11. So let's move on to the Era 1 and yeah, see if we can improve the running of that. Right, moving on to the Era 1 locomotive. So I wrote to Hornby and I said the Era 1 model is jolty when it does move and stops every few seconds, but to be frank, it should be considered a non-runner. Hornby's response was, in regards to the Era 1, has it been run in? How long in each direction? Well, no, it hasn't been run in because it doesn't run, which was a little bit frustrating response. So keep in mind this is a brand new loco. What I've done is I've wiped over all of the wheels, cleaned all of the contacts. On the tender, and I'm going to show you on the other model, if I just bring it into shot, on the base of the tender you can see how these wires are wrapped around the axle for the pickups. So I've moved those over on the tender and just made sure there's a good nice contact there. The final thing I did is somebody recommended, they said they had an issue with the plug between the tender and the loco on their rocket. So I've removed the plug, I've straightened out all the wires and put the plug back in, and success. So the model is running quite nicely, and I thought what I'd do is I'm just going to repeat what I did on the other loco and just put a tiny bit of oil around each of the vertical conrods. See if we've got rid of the squeak, which I hope we have. There we go. And yeah, it's a lovely runner. So there you go, with trying a few things here. So, you know, a lot of advice given on the chat. So basically unplugging and plugging in the connector, moving the wires in between the loco and the tender, cleaning off the wheels and giving it a little oil there. This is now a perfect runner. And to be fair, you could argue in the first video I probably should have persevered and tried to get these running before contacting Hornby, but as I said on a lot of the comments, I didn't want to touch these are brand new, and even by oiling them one could argue that that would invalidate the warranty. you know, these should run out the box. And again, these aren't cheap models, so there was no way I was going to start messing around trying to get them running until at least I'd spoken to Hornby and told them that I was attempting to. So really pleased to see it running. Neither model will be going back. I am going to pursue the step on the Era 11, but problem solved, and hopefully this little update, especially the oiling point, as I say, on the running boards between the vertical con rods, may help somebody if you've got the same sort of squeaking problem. That's where the issue seems to be. Well, on the previous video I put both locos on the same track just to show that the Era 1 loco was having trouble moving. So I'm going to do the same here after I've done the little changes. So just quick recap. I've basically wiped the wheels off on the Era 1. I've unplugged the tender from the loco, straightened the wires out, plugged that back in, and then on the pickup on the two rear wheels I've just moved that very slightly so it's touching a little bit better. And as you can see, both locos are quite happily running now, which I'm quite pleased with. As I say, I didn't want to make any changes to these locos without contacting Hornby. I was worried about invalidating the warranty, but once I'd got confirmation from them that yeah, give them an oil, give them a go and have a look at them, I was quite happy to give that a go, and yeah, they are running quite successfully. Anyway, I'm going to leave that one there. If it was of interest, then you know, please do give it a thumbs up, and why not check out the channel, lots on there. And if you can subscribe, I'd be really grateful. And with that, I'm going to leave this one there, say thank you ever so much for watching, and I'll catch you on the next one.